What's up, everybody? Welcome.
Bless you.
Jesus Christ, you scared me. I didn't see that one coming at all. I had no way to be ready for it. Fuck
crept up on me.
Well, for Thursday, January 30th, 2025, I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Forbes 30 Under 30, a.k.a. New York Game Awards nominated, a.k.a. Magic the Gathering, Poppy Blessing, Adeoye Jr.
Just everybody in this office is sick, sneezing, coughing.
I
don't trust you guys.
First off,
Your whole family's sick.
we're recording this in a time loop, of course. We're recording this on Tuesday after we did the last Gamescast. I sound great today compared to Monday. Monday I had that cough. You guys made me laugh so much it irritated me, but I've been great today. I've been fine
Likely
today.
excuse. You made
Listen.
me laugh so much that I'm coughing nonstop.
I mean, I was coughing.
I'm funny throughout the year.
You had a cough
You're
the
not
last Gamescast, and you're the last 10 minutes. I was like, oh, there was an entity that that exited. That's
That's where I kicked it out. That was the end of it for me. That's how. Of course, Hispanic heartthrob, Texas Street Latino heat, clicking heads and ripping them to shreds. The globe trotting, headshot and 3-point shooting, rootin' tootin', nitro rifle from Twitch.tv. Andy Cortez, how are you feeling?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
What was that sneeze? Was it just I got some dust in my nose?
I felt a tickle. Felt a tickle in the nostrils.
You're one out there in the night, all right, playing Magic the Gathering board games, people puking. Got
It
the
was one
norovirus
child,
over
child.
there.
What are you
One
gonna do?
child.
What are you going to do with the children? And also, I was careful because there was one of the kids who.
How young are these kids you're playing with?
Well, I'm not playing with the kids. The kids are just happening to be there. The adults are playing the adult games.
Wait, I thought the 9-year-old beat you up.
In what? Which 9-year-old? 9-year-old beat me up.
No, that was when you went to the.
It was a Magic Fest.
Oh yeah, no, that was at the whatchamacallit pre-release event. But he didn't beat me up though. I beat him because it's best 2 out of 3. I beat him the first game. He beat me the second game, but then we ran out of time, and so I gave him the win so that one of us could win the pack. Because you have to win. Like if you submit a tie, nobody wins the pack. And so I'm like, well, he's the kid, so what? I'm not gonna flip.
I'm just saying you're
him.
around people too. You're getting sick too. All right.
But I'm saying these.
I
kids,
got the dad bod, the dad immune system. I'm doing fine.
Because I'm
over here.
watching. I'm at this board game night. I'm watching this 3-year-old, right? And like there's a lot of snacks and stuff. Like I love this game night. It's like it happens.
Where is it?
When this is at a friend's house.
Okay.
Right, and it happens like once every probably 5 weeks or so. And they have children, and this last time, he had Cheetos out. He had different snacks.
Oh, just the hands are everywhere.
Yeah, and I
Hands
just
are
see this
everywhere.
kid. Oh man, this kid's hands are all over the snacks, and I was like, not eating those.
Yeah,
not
you
eating
can't.
those.
That's
not
smart
touching
move.
those.
Smart move. Yeah,
Nope,
100%.
nope.
100%. Yeah, that's the Ben learned a valuable lesson that I'll have to repeat 14, 13, 100,000 times. But this weekend when we were playing our games, he is getting better, but he's still getting over sucking his thumb. And so, yeah, he had me beat a part of Astrobot or Sonic for him, and I passed the controller back, and he pulled it. I'm like, wow, no, buddy. This is a dual sense, all right? There's a microphone
That's
in
a
it.
great call. Get him started early on that.
I'm
That's really
not
smart.
gonna raise one of these kids who's just a ruffian who has no idea what he's doing out there. You know
Crusty
what I mean?
controllers.
Exactly.
It wasn't until Greg really sort of drilled that idea into your mind of when you go to a convention, don't ever touch your mouth.
That's why everybody gets sick. Yeah.
And I am so self-conscious of that now. It's
Yeah.
always in the forefront of my mind. Whenever I'm anywhere with food, it's like I'm always wearing a mask in an airport because that's always the place that I always get sick at.
Yeah.
I always take a disease back home and I get sick when I'm back in Texas, or I'll bring a sickness back over here.
Yeah.
So that's eliminated pretty much. But then when you're at a convention and there's finger foods, or you're at a a little
A
event,
preview
and
event.
there's
Let's touch the controller, then let's pick up a slider. All it takes is one time. It took the
Absolutely
one
not.
time where I almost passed out at Comic-Con. I was like, never again, never
Do you
do
guys try to fist bump people?
Oh yeah,
I
fist bump.
So my MO upon leaving the hotel room or whatever, going to a preview event, is that my hands are biohazards. So I shake hands because I know I would never
not
in a
gonna touch your
million
mouth.
years touch the food and eat it or do that or rub something. Once I'm out, I know it's whatever, and then I'll be.
See, I had a thing at I believe it was, I forget. I think it was PAX East. It was PAX East where it was lunchtime, and I was like, man, I'm starving. I'm gonna go to the food court area that's in the convention center, and I was like, okay, let me find a nearby bathroom because I don't know if I'm gonna be wash my hands when I'm at the food court. I'm sure there's a bathroom, but who knows? So I washed my hands, and it was a obstacle course of trying to make sure my hands stayed clean.
Yeah.
I ran into a friend of mine who, I love him so much, but he will not just not shake my hand. Like anytime he sees me, he needs to dap me up fully. And I like tried so hard. Like I made the fist apparent of like I'm fist bumping you. And
See-
he grabs my hand. And I'm like, come on, my guy.
See, I've been in that situation, and I will stop. I will stop everything. I'm about to go eat. I'm about to do this.
Yeah,
So
that's why I
elbows
hate
together.
that,
Yeah. I'm not afraid of making an enemy out of a friend.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like an awkward situation.
Nah, my whole life's an awkward situation. It's fine.
Fair,
This has
fair.
been the thing, of course, being a germaphobe, but on lower level, not like OCD or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just making sure I'm not trying to have false valor here. But the idea of like the things I've had to get over with having a kid, you know what I mean? Of like I'm still hungry in the half-eaten sandwich that he has been playing and touching. I was like, you know what I mean? Like I got to keep the immune system going. Whatever. I'm hungry. I'm in terms of again the levels. Like sure, I'm a germaphobe, but I'm a fat guy first. So like today, he's not gonna finish that egg sandwich. Give me that thing. I made a great egg sandwich today. Come on now.
Proud of you.
Of course, I'm going to make a great podcast for you today as well, because this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every weekday, we run you through the biggest topics in video games, whether they be previews, topics to talk about, or like today, reviews of games you should be paying attention to. If you like that, of course, join us each and every weekday here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, and podcast services around the globe. Of course, if you're watching live, I would normally tell you could be a super chatter and get a part of it. But like I already told you, because of travels and in previews and all these things, we're recording this ahead of time. However, Andy Cortez went above and beyond and put up a Blue Sky post, so we do have audience feedback. Good job, Andy. Round of applause.
No problem.
Good job out there.
Of course, man.
Of course, if you want to support us beyond following us on Blue Sky, it's pretty simple. You should get that Kind of Funny membership. $10 gets you all of our shows. That's $20 a week, $80 a month, ad-free. And, of course, the ability to watch the afternoon podcast live as you record them. And, of course, a daily dose of me in a series we call Greg Way, where even when I'm on the road like today, somebody else does it. I think it's Roger today. Roger with his Trinidad stories.
Is he back?
What, on
The
Thursday? He's
Trinidaddy.
back on Thursday.
Oh, gotcha.
Is that what they're calling him? I like that.
The Trinidad.
Can we say that?
Wait,
Oh,
you're saying
wow.
he's back this Thursday?
That's what the calendar says.
I thought he was gone for 2 weeks. Has it been?
No, it was
Bro.
10 days.
Wait, was he gone last week?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. It's like I didn't even notice.
Don't let Roger see
That's
this. Chappy
crazy.
cool. Chappy cool. Do not show this to
He was
Roger.
gone last week?
Do not show this to
It was his
Roger.
birthday yesterday, Vlad. You can't.
No way.
He was gone for.
You didn't notice he wasn't part of Game Showdown? He's like your cohort on that thing. He wasn't here for it.
Oh, yeah, I guess he wasn't. It was a
Yeah.
kind of feudy episode, We
Yeah.
only do one, but
If you got no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. YouTube.com/kindoffunnygames, Twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, podcast services. Like, subscribe, share, ring the bell, tell your friends, leave a review.
I just thought the
If
2
you have
weeks would feel
Amazon Prime,
longer.
you have Twitch Prime, you know the whole song. Housekeeping for you. You already got Kind of Funny Games Daily today. Of course, you're getting a stream after this that, as of Tuesday, is supposed to be Sniper Elite Resistance. If you're a Kind of Funny member, you can get today's Greg Way, hopefully from Roger. We want to thank our Patreon producers, Delaney Twining and Carl Jacobs. Today, we're brought to you by BetterHelp and Built. We'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be topic of the show. Andy,
Hey, Greg.
in 2022,
2022.
a game called Citizen Sleeper came out. I heard no one speak about it until you started speaking about it. And for 3 years now-ish, you've never shut up about it.
Yeah.
You loved Citizen Sleeper. You enjoyed Citizen Sleeper, had an 82 on Metacritic, and now Citizen Sleeper 2 is finally upon us. The Steam description reads, a dice-driven RPG in a human and heartfelt sci-fi world. You are an escaped android with a malfunctioning body, a price on your head, and no memory of your past. Get a ship, find a crew, and take on contracts while you navigate across the Starward Belt. Of course, it is developed by Jump Over the Age, published by Fellow Traveler, out January 31st. Andy Cortez, as the biggest Citizen Sleeper fan I know, does Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector live up to the hype?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes,
Wow.
it sure does. It sure does, Greg.
Is it a contender?
I am proud to say that Citizen Sleeper 2 is a contender for at least my top 10, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I've always talked about how Citizen Sleeper is a much more different game than I would ever give a chance to. It just, I think it was one of those right moments in time for me where I was listening to the Besties podcast
Never heard of
and
it.
they were just waxing poetic about Citizen Sleeper and how amazing the storytelling is and the writing. And it was available on Game Pass. and I fired up my Xbox during the pandemic, and I was like, let me see what this game is all about. And I think I beat it in one day because I was just so enthralled and engrossed with
You were
this
lost in the
experience.
sauce.
Yeah, so immersed in the story and the characters and everything, and so impressed by the writing mainly. How every we talk about every frame of painting in movies or whatever. This is like every line of bar, like it reminds me of watching Andor, where there are so many monologues in Andor. You're just like, God, that's a fucking poem right there. Like, give that like some award right there. Just that one line, like that happens constantly in Citizen Sleeper. And Citizen Sleeper, let me just do the little Wikipedia plot.
Please do.
And this is also kind of encompassing Citizen Sleeper's 2 plot as well. In Citizen Sleeper, the player character is a sleeper, a human whose mind has been digitized and put into the robot body to be controlled by the SNR Corporation. The player's sleeper has escaped indentured servitude on a freighter and arrived on the space station called the Eye. That's for Citizen Sleeper 1, but just the general thing is, in the future, if there's a lot of debts you owe, if you don't have a whole lot of options in your life because corporations and capitalism has run rampant, and there's a lot of...
Thank God this is fiction.
Yeah, there are massive amounts of wealth disparity, right?
Yeah.
You can lend your... Not necessarily lend, but you sell your body to a corporation. They emulate and digitize your mind, put it inside of a robot, and that robot will work and make money, and you will kind of exist there forever while your body is somewhere on a station, whatever, just kind of there, sitting
milked.
there, being, sleeping.
Getting milked.
Yeah, exactly. Getting milked. Yeah. And so it's really a pretty dreary look into the future and a really depressing take on what future life can be. But the thing that really struck me with Citizen Sleeper was always this feeling of hope, depending on whoever NPCs you would talk to. Any NPC you would talk to, there would always just be like this underlying positivity of, as long as we have each other, sort of mentality.
Sure.
If we stick together, regardless of what awful things are happening out there in the space station or in the universe or in the galaxy, we can only control what we have right now, and let's make the most of it. And regardless of how depressing it gets, there's always that sort of feeling.
Sure.
And I was just super drawn to it. And for whatever reason, it just worked in that moment whenever I played this game. And this is typically a game I would never, ever try because it's a lot of reading. And there's no dashes, there's no parries.
I was gonna say, we're watching it obviously, but if you're an audio listener, it's this interesting visual novel, but then mixed up with as I read, dice-based RPG mechanic, right? Where it is, you have these set number of dice that you can then go and apply to the choices you make in the game. So it'll influence, obviously, with more dots on the die, if it's going to be a good outcome or a bad outcome, and it changes the priority of what you're doing. But you're, just making choices and seeing how they play out.
Yeah, and I think one thing for me when I played the first Citizen Sleeper is, after the story that I experienced in Citizen Sleeper 1 is like, that's my canon. That was my story. I think I had one of the best endings to any video game experience I've ever had, and something that will just constantly resonate with me. And it was beautiful and emotional and just fucking like emotionally wrecking, It was a very heartbreaking moment that was still so amazing to experience. It felt great. And so many of the NPCs in Citizen Sleeper 1 and Citizen Sleeper 2 have a lot of those through lines, whether you're talking to them for a tiny little mission or whether they're there to constantly go back to and kind of progress their story.
Can I stop you right there? Because I feel like you're going somewhere that I want to get one of our super chats in. It's a quote from your Blue Sky thing, right? You're talking about how much you had this canon ending in Citizen Sleeper 1. Citizen Sleeper 2, clearly a sequel. We do have a question from Eric Myers who says, hypothetically, because this is how you phrased your tweet, if I hadn't played the first one, would I be able to jump into this one and not be lost?
Yes.
Okay.
However,
do you recommend playing the first one first?
Of course. Okay. I think the first game is a better video game. I think
interesting.
If I were to kind of funny score, we didn't have that scale back in the day. If I were to give Citizen Sleeper 1, it's like close to a masterpiece for me. I give it a 9.5.
Nice.
And Citizen Sleeper 2, I'm on the fence between 8.5 to 9.
Okay.
Still extremely recommended. Absolutely play this game. It's still incredible. But in Citizen Sleeper 2, you are playing a different sleeper. You're a different character altogether. But still the same through line is there. You are a digitized, emulated mind put into a worker robot body. And it starts off with a bang, and I think it starts off really great. Citizen Sleeper 2, and the demo's out now. You can still play the demo. It's called the Hexport demo up on Steam. But yes, you can absolutely hop in and not be lost or confused because it throws you into a very easy to digest situation. You are confused. You wake up. What the hell is going on? We're going to give you the best couple of paragraphs to beautifully, describe the environment that you're in, and it's all written so incredibly great. And somebody's hunting you, and somebody's fucking.
They want their property back.
Somebody's fucking with your robot body, and it's this dude named Lane, and this Lane is bad news. And this guy's like, look what I've done for you, and this is how you're treating me. Like, that I have plans for your body, and you just treated it like shit. And then you have a friend alongside you who's like, we got to get the fuck out of here. And you're like, who is this person? You have different dialogue choices. Who are you? It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, something happened to you. There was some sort of test or some sort of thing happening to your body, and it was interrupted, and your brain is wiped. And it's a great place to kind of fall into because it's immediately like, I feel the tension, I feel the action, and I hate this dude already.
So I'm 90 minutes in. I did not play Citizen Sleeper 1. And so the only thing I found not jarring, but I was wondering, would I know more about me or Lane if I had played Citizen Sleeper 1?
Negative.
And I think not knowing it, not even knowing that, just having that question didn't influence this. Having a great time. Story is great. Conversations are great. Gameplay, I'm still wrapping my head around because it is so new to me and different, but I don't think you have to worry if you're a new player jumping in, because I am.
Right, and you will have 3 different classes to choose from, and the 3 different...
Can I ask a question there too?
Go ahead.
Was that in Citizen Sleeper 1 as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And where, if we're talking, the closest analog I can give you is strength, dexterity, magic, whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But these are engineer, pursuit. I'm blanking on what all the different skills are, right? But one character won't be able to do one of them, but like each class won't be able to do certain moves.
When Kevin was going through it, you saw the skill trees and like there being one redded out, right? That's the idea. Is you go in there and you have different base levels to start from, let alone things that are closed off on.
You will have some strengths, and some of your fellow NPCs might be able to pick up the slack in those situations whenever you come across these moments where you have to roll your dice, right? A new mechanic in this
Nailed it.
game.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the screen.
Machinist, right? Or machinist?
So, yeah, machinist. So this character can't do the engage skill. So if there's ever a test in the future that has engage, you will not be able to roll a dice there. You can roll a dice, but since you don't have that skill, it'll give, if you have a 6 that you can roll because you just so happened to wake up that day, and every day you wake up, you are given 5 dice to roll. And you could use those 5 dice on any place in any of the star stations that you're kind of located in. If you have a 6 and I try to use it on that skill engage, it's going to become a 4. It takes away 2 points because you don't have that skill. You can't use that here. And the 4 gives you less chance of this having a positive outcome, right? I think all that stuff gets so like in the weeds, though. I don't really want to scare away people from like dice rolling type stuff, because I think it starts to kind of come more naturally to the player. But when I hop into this, I'm like, I'm not a tabletop guy. I'm not a visual novel type dude. And I really was just there for these human stories.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that about it. I think that's the thing, is like not being a dice player either, like those kind of games, even tabletop RPGs, I respect, but I haven't done a lot of D&D. It was more like getting in and being like, oh, it's the gimmick to the visual novel. Visual novels often I can enjoy, but often I find myself drifting away from. I'm bored to some thing, right? I'm just making choices, whatever. The gameplay mechanic and the influencing then of the decisions and the thing, especially early on right now where I am in the game, right? Where it's like, let's scrounge up some cash. I'm going to go do this don't fuck it up, and you walk around and either fuck it up or don't fuck it up, right? Like I'm in that section still, and so it is like, okay, this is a risky choice. Do I use my big dice on it or do I not? Or do I do this?
Yeah, if you the different tests will tell you whether it's a safe choice, a risky choice, or a dangerous choice. It'll have danger on there, and if you roll, if you roll a 6, that's 100% pass.
Yeah,
you're gonna pass that test. If you roll a 5, you have a 50% chance of it being a positive outcome or a 50% chance of it being neutral, which is like still fine, and that usually passes in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And then if I were to try to roll a 2, then that's like negative or neutral. Like you're not really going to succeed here. And if it's a dangerous task or a risky task will result in more punishment to you, the player. So it's like, do you want to take that risk? Do you want to deal with the consequences of undergoing stress? And the more stress your character has, your dice will break, and you have to eventually repair those. But if your dice are broken, then that means you only have 4 left instead of the usual 5. And if you keep on taking really shitty risks, then you'll have another dice will break, and then you'll have 3 left, So it's like there is a lot of that risk reward and a lot of that player payoff. But I kind of wanted to I wanted to compare my experience with Citizen Sleeper 1 and with this game to another game that we played last year, that you and I played last year, Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Oh yeah.
Where I think based on certain endings and certain outcomes, you can have an incredible experience, and maybe you get an outcome that you feel is lesser than, and you'll be like, that really kind of hurts
The overall.
what my overall feelings will be here, right?
Yeah.
And I stand by that. Whatever I did in Dragon Age: The Veilguard, even it having a catastrophic ending with all the choices that I was making, I was like, wow, I really loved what I experienced. And then I started up a new player, and I saw different dialogue choices. And suddenly I saw the cringe that reviewers were talking about. And I saw things that weren't lining up, and I saw things that didn't feel earned. And I'm like, okay, now I start to see why other people's viewpoints, and that's not I'm not trying to excuse the writers here or whatever, but different, whether you're choosing a different backstory, it might lead to worse writing. It might lead to moments where you're like, oh, that didn't feel good. I don't really like the character saying that. That makes no sense. Why would you feel that way when I didn't experience, blah, blah, blah. That you can kind of like, you see where I'm getting at. And with Citizen Sleeper 1, I still feel like the ending that I got is the most perfect thing that could have happened for me in that moment. And there could have been other outcomes that maybe didn't make you feel as satisfied. For me, it was like perfect. That's why it's like, what an amazing experience. With this game, it feels like there is one singular ending, but there are a lot of like 1A and 1B and 1C sort of like
shades to it,
side endings to it, because it still feels like there's one kind of, this is the final thing that you will do in this game to eventually roll credits, but there are other sort of paths to pursue that you may not in certain playthroughs. So that's where but I do think a lot of the choices still matter in this game. A lot of the things you're doing, a lot of the NPCs are deciding to keep around, all of that stuff does matter. And the same with Citizen Sleeper 1, where you're making some big choices, and if you fail some stuff, you might have an ending that's like, oh my God, this is really depressing and sad, and I really fucked up here.
What made those choices matter to you, right? Like, if it's not a thing of figuring out, like, oh, I want ending A versus ending D or whatever, right? Like, is it the fact that you're just coloring in the story the way you want to color it in? Is it like what happens along the way that differs from what other people might do, or like, is it something else?
I think what makes, as long as I'm getting fulfilled emotionally, I was talking, I had asked the developer where the demo ended, because I wanted to know for like embargo's sake.
Sure.
And they were telling me that the demo ended at a certain spot, and I knew, okay, I won't talk about what happens beyond that. And then they said, thanks for always talking positively about Citizen Sleeper 1. Like, I really appreciate it. And I was like, thanks for making me feel, because these games have such an impact on me story-wise, and whether I could talk to an NPC in this game that only exists for a mission, and they just drop some of the fucking most poignant, like, just hard-ass shit ever, and you're like, God damn, man, that's like a tattoo. Like, that is such an amazing thing that you just said, and now you're gone. And I think what makes those choices matter to me is, like, the sort of human connection to these characters, and how I don't think that every character is necessarily the most believable. There are a lot of stretches that happen in this game where you'll meet a character and they'll be like, oh, you're a sleeper. I don't see many of you. By the way, you looking for a crew? And it's like, oh, I don't. That feels kind of like a stretch. I feel like maybe we would need more of a back and forth to eventually you wanting to like join a crew, or maybe you just are desperate. But
such
for
a
me,
video game thing.
Yeah,
Starfield's always the same way. They just bump into somebody like, I'll join.
You're trying to get me to the next point, and so I definitely see where you're going with this. But for me, the choices that what makes the choices matter to me are like feeling like I'm letting something down, as opposed to in other games where I'm really curious to see what the developers were able to put into this game, like Starfield, right? There or any game that has choice. The game developer side of me, like that's still somewhere in that brain, goes, man, I want to pick this, but I really want to see what happens if I pick the other choice, just out of a game development like curiosity's sake. How far did they take this? How, like, asset wise, dialogue wise, how far are they going to take these cutscenes and these character interactions? Where in this game, I'm really just more curious in how is this character going to react to this? How am I going to fuck up this side of the story if I choose to side with so and so? If I decide to make this choice, like it feels much more like I am choosing out of my own self-interest rather than, oh, what does this game developer have in store for me if I choose this path? You know, I don't really have that with this game. Here, I'm just like, I want to see what this character. I want to see the future for this character if I do decide to side with them or help them out.
How long did it take you to get credits? Ballpark.
Much longer game,
okay.
I will say.
How long was Citizen Sleeper 1?
Citizen Sleeper 1, I beat in about 9 hours, nine or 10 hours. I think how long to beat says 10 hours, but I think it was a little bit shorter for me. Citizen Sleeper 2, fuck, man. Like 22, 23.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
It is a lot more expansive. And I don't know if that...
I was going to say, does that work for it? Is that...
I anytime I felt like it wasn't, it reminded me of 1000 Times Resist.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Where that game, I mentioned in our review of it, or, you know, just past sort of Game of the Year podcast about it, where I felt like I had 12 different epilogues where it just kept on like, oh, there's more. And I'd be like, there's more.
Yeah,
and then you would get into the meat of it and go, oh, this is really good, though. Like, this meal is tasty. I actually was still hungry, thank God. And I felt a lot of... I never felt like this game won't end, though, because I am still enjoying so much of it. And I do want to learn what keeps on happening with these characters. And then a new NPC would pop up and be like, what's your deal, right? The game definitely is longer. I do think that I chose to go more of the completionist route with this one.
Okay.
And that feels... Citizen Sleeper 2 feels like it opens itself more up to that, where Citizen Sleeper 1 did feel like, all right,
point A to point B.
Well, there's 5 different points. Pick one or two, maybe.
Okay.
And this game definitely feels like it gives you more time to kind of explore a lot of different options and a lot of different story paths, because there are a lot of characters and there's a big star system out there.
Let me bring in this question then from the super chats and quotes. Okami13B says, my biggest question is if it retains the heart and thought-provoking nature of the first one. I'm happy it's bigger and has more systems than the first, but only if they don't get in the way of what made the first so special.
1,000,000%.
Okay.
Yeah, that is without a question. Anytime that I was expecting for the writing to fall off, it never did, because it's just so amazing throughout. And every character you meet, there's always like this beautiful lesson at the end of it. And there's always like a very impactful sign off to the way your character are thinking about an NPC. And this character stayed there and it made you think, what was really that? You know, you just have this sort of moment of self-reflection, and it's like, it's so beautiful and so hopeful. And it still reminds me a lot of the vibes of Citizen Sleeper 1. This universe is punishing and it sucks and there's a lot of people suffering. Yet through it all, there's this silver lining of human connection, or in this case, sleeper and human connection, like synthetic connection. And you as this sleeper, anytime there was a moment of you as a sleeper talking to an NPC and then being like, hey, what's your deal, right? Do you feel like what we feel? Do you have these memories? and you as a sleeper being like, actually, yeah, like I had this moment where I had a vision of a butterfly. I was like, what's that? I haven't experienced that. But the person that I'm emulated from, where my body is, experienced that somewhere. Why is that memory leaking through? And what is it to be a human? You know, it's like, God, it's so fucking good. And at every turn, there are moments that hit you upside the head. And like, as bad as I am with ADHD and reading,
I was gonna say it's so fucking good. Jamie super chats and says, as someone who hates reading, is it good?
yes, like, and I think because the writing is so good, I found myself about at least like 20 damn times because of how bad I am with reading. And this spans back to high school, where suddenly when I like turned 12 and 13 and 14, I just could not get through a paragraph without trailing off in my mind, going somewhere else and being what did I just read? And that happens a lot in this game with me personally. And that's just me being bad at reading and having just this brain that cannot focus. And I would get to the end of the paragraph and go, no, don't move on. You didn't know what you just read.
Reread
and
it.
you know it's going to be sick as fuck.
Yeah.
And then I would read it and consume it and be like, oh, that was great. Like, trust me, like, for a game that doesn't have dodges or parries or level design or anything like that, like, I am still so blown away by this experience.
You have a lot more questions here from Blue Sky that I want to get to, but first I'll remind everybody that we are an 11-person small business all about live talk shows, usually about video games. If you like that and want to support, that'd be great. Pick up a Kinda Funny membership on patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames or Apple or Spotify. And of course, you'd get all of our shows ad-free, the ability to watch the afternoon podcast live as we record them, and your daily dose of me, Greg Miller, in a series we call Greg Way. But right now, you're not using your membership benefits, so here's a word from our sponsors.
This episode's brought to you by Built. If you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, and practically everything else we buy. But we should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high-value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So, if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/kindafunny. That's joinbilt.com/kindafunny. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you there. Joinbuilt.com/kindafunny to start earning points on your rent payments today. This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled in. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp, and they love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And it serves over 5 million people worldwide. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny. BetterHelp.com/kindafunny.
And we're back. I'm going to start with David Page, who blue skies and says, did they gamify more of the systems from the previous entry, or is it still very much in line with how simple and straightforward the first one's systems were? If the former, did that detract from the experience of the first? If the latter, did it feel like it did enough to improve in other areas?
I think it improved the gameplay for sure, adding this sort of stress meter.
So that's the new thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
the new thing is this whole sort of stress meter. If you fail a check, if you're going out to a side quest, which I love just having these tiny little moments of talking to an NPC and then being like, oh, there's this like this crashed ship out in this system. They're looking for this and that. And if you want a job, like go, 200 cryo or whatever as the currency. And then so you would decide to fly out there, and you would pick 2 of your NPCs that you've recruited along the way. And you look at what, you have 4 skills, right? Depending, varying strengths of the different skills, and you have 1 you can't use. So you look at your NPCs, and you're like, all right, who should I take out with me? Well, you have that 1 skill I don't have, so I'm taking you out there. And you're not so strong in that place, but you are, so I'll take you as well. So you take 2 people with you, and they have 2 skills, or they have 1 to 2 skills, but they have 2 dice that they can roll, and you have your 5 dice that you can roll.
Yeah.
And you're out there, and you need to make sure that you have. If it's a mission that is going to take a long time, you need to make sure you have enough supplies, because every time you end your cycle, you need to eat, or else your character will like slowly start to lose stamina, and you start to like break your dice or whatever. And if you fail these checks, you will incur a little, here's a little ding on you, and that's going to be your stress meter. The more that fills up, the more your dice breaks. And you can't remove stress during a mission like that, during one of these side quests. You, as that stress meter goes up, your dice will continue to break, and you could just straight up fail the mission, and it's all fucked. And your dice are all super broken, and you have to go back to your base or whatever and kind of chill out. And when you go back to these space stations, that's kind of your moment of reprieve. That's where you are normally under less stress. And there are some really stressful situations where you might fail a check on one of these side quests, and then a sort of like stress side mission will pop up on that space station you're at.
Interesting.
And it's like, I can finish out this space station. I can finish out this quest where I'm looking for this treasure, but there's like a really, really high priority thing that's now going off, and it's an alarm that's going to alert the authorities. And if that thing goes off before I am able to get this treasure, all hell's going to break loose. So I want to go take care of disarming that alarm. I'm really stressed out right now. I only have 2 days left. Can I possibly just like push it and risk it with, trying to get this treasure? Or should we try to strategize and try to disarm the alarm, right? And that's where the push and pull comes in. And that's where like you're basically just throwing a dice, but man, all the stress is there. And I'm feeling like the tension of like, God, I hope this fucking rolls. And if this doesn't land positively for me, I'm really, really screwed.
One thing I haven't seen in the game, because I'm so early, is a game over. So let's say you do that. You ignore the alarm. The authorities come in. You get into a battle where you're rolling dice, or choices where you'd have to, and then can you be killed? Is it game over and then you reset, or is that the end of the game?
You will not game over. There is a permadeath mode as the hardest difficulty, where if you die, it is the end of the game. But you essentially like pass out. You're
faint like a Pokemon.
I never did that, gamer. I pure fucking gamer.
Oh my god, this kid, the skills he's got.
I'm assuming I would wake back up on a base and then being like, man, you knocked out, man. We just escaped or whatever. I don't really know what the end game scenario is.
Got it.
But I do know that I incurred a lot of punishment, and hey, you really fucked up because you really pushed it to the limit, and now you're stressed all the way out, and you only have 1 functional dice left. Like I did experience a lot of that throughout the game, and that really, really hurt me for the future, because I had to spend a lot of time trying to recoup because I was so just damaged,
Sean writes in on Blue Sky and says, I'd always like to hear about Steam Deck performance. You got your Steam Deck right in front of you. That's where I played, but you're obviously way deeper.
Steam Deck, great. I had some issues with some UI elements, especially when you are trying to fly to different parts of this little star system. When you're trying to go to different planets or space stations, it can be kind of annoying. I ended up just like tapping on the star system I wanted to go towards, because when you move the D-pad, there are moments like I'm showing. I don't want to show the screen, but if I hit right on the D-pad and I want to go to that one,
I see.
It's it could get kind of like frustrating in some moments, and it doesn't always tag to the right thing, but it does fill out the full like 1200 by 800 screen ratio for the Steam Deck. It looks great. It performs great. Yeah, I had no other issues with that. I say that I played like 90% of it on Steam Deck.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris says, how do you feel? Do you feel like the choice of your starting class is impactful? Did it influence how you use your party members?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially knowing that one of those skills you cannot ever have. And if you do try to use it, you're going to be significantly at a disadvantage. So yeah, for sure. I did start off as one class, started off having these tests and being like, ooh, me and my squad are not prepared for these. Let me restart the game as the other class because I already failed this first mission. And it wasn't a death, but it was just like you failed. Drive failed or whatever. These missions are called drives. There's like major drives and minor drives. And so I restarted as a different class. But I guess I'm reminded of our Pokemon Nuzlocke where everybody was like, if you go with Charmander at the start, it's going to be a lot easier for you at the beginning, but again, harder later on.
Yeah.
But if you start off with Bulbasaur at the start, it'll be a bit harder for you in the beginning, but better for you in the long run. That's kind of how you end up here. It depends. Like by the end of it, if you want a lot of squad mates on your ship, and I say you should, because that just gives you a lot more diversity for what sort of skills you would have options for using. Definitely do that because you're going to have a skill that you cannot use, but you'll have a lot of skills you can eventually upgrade to. And every time I believe it costs 4 skill points to upgrade something. So maybe that one skill that I was, or maybe that one, let's call it like engineer. Whenever I wanted to roll a dice on an engineer test, it was giving me no benefit, but I leveled it up so much that whatever I roll, it gives me 2 extra bonus points on it.
Okay.
So if I have a 4 dice left on an engineer test, I know I'm going to get a 6 because I'm getting 2 extra bonus points.
Sure.
When you're
nerd
on these
shit, just nerd shit.
Yeah,
I love
nerd
it for an
shit.
RPG.
When you're on these side quests, there's these sort of like sub powers called a push.
Okay.
And that's another thing you can level up. And it's like an either or thing. Do you want to put points into upgrading your push ability, or do you want to put points into pushing down that skill tree, right? And that push ability will be anything from if I click this button on one of these side quests, it'll add 2 points to my lowest dice available.
Okay.
So I have a 1, a 5, a 5, a 5, and a 6.
Yeah.
If I click that push, that 1 becomes a 3.
Yeah.
So, and if I level that up more, it could possibly go further and further. And the different classes sort of vary there, where when I picked another class recently, the push ability then became, instead of benefiting you, it said you take on 1 blip of stress, which is like not good, obviously.
Not good. Stress
but
blips.
your squad mates' dice will raise like up by 1 or up by 2.
Gotcha.
So now my 2 squad mates get stronger. So it's kind of like, what do you want? Do you want to hurt yourself and help out your squad mates, or do you want to benefit your own sort of dice?
What advice would you give for people who want to jump in, like whether it be a good class to pick or anything, right? Because for me, hearing this, I think I made the decision. I think I'm going to jump into Citizen Sleeper 2. Thank you.
I would say 1, man.
You'd say 1?
Like 1 is shorter, and it's, I think, a
Game Pass too.
And Game Pass.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Play right now on the cloud.
I think it's a bit more streamlined.
Okay. Because
Would that be?
But I love the gameplay elements of part 2 a bit more.
Sure. No, you're not taking away, but that's your like blanket statement to everybody. You think if you haven't played Citizen Sleeper, because you had so many questions in here. If I'm a new player, why should I get it? Or what should I? You'd say start with Citizen Sleeper.
Where I'm coming in at is I really liked the premise that you talked about earlier of like coming in and like there's this mysterious guy and like talking to you. And
it does start out with a fucking bang.
Like that shit sounds like such a cool premise to me. And then I also have it on Steam, and so like I can play it on Steam. Like I do have Citizen Sleeper 1 on Game Pass, so I could play it that way. But now I'm like visualizing like an hour before bed with my Steam Deck, and I'm just like reading for an hour before I go to bed.
You'll be asleep in 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin, you're the guy, right? Kevin, you fall asleep every time you try to read, right?
I sure do, Greg. I sure do.
The more I push you towards Citizen Sleeper 1, the more I just think about all the amazing things that part 2 does, and so it's like, yeah, fuck it.
Because the other thing I'm thinking
so
too
good.
is like it just came out, so it's fresh. It's 2025, so I know I'm playing a game for this year, and like I can factor into the game of the year combo.
You know what? I'm giving it a 9.
And that
I'm giving it a 9. Yeah,
It's going up.
Well, because I just think
you
about
have
all the other
locked it in.
NPCs I've experienced throughout, and it's just like, oh, they're so good, and there's so many impactful moments, and just stuff that just it's food for the soul, regardless of how dreary and depressing it can get. It's just
And this one, Citizen Sleeper 2, is food for the soul in the same way
Yeah.
Citizen Sleeper 1 was.
absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm also thinking of like I can always play Citizen Sleeper 1 also.
No, you're
Like,
totally
I can
right.
play it down the line.
You're totally
especially
right.
if I fall in love with this one.
And
You're
that'd be an
totally
interesting one too, of how much you enjoy this, not having the baggage of Citizen Sleeper 1.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
intend to keep playing at this, but I'm gonna be.
Like I literally opened up I opened up my like game release calendar, and then isn't public anymore. Now it's just private.
Yeah,
And then I opened up like releases.com to
Yeah.
look at what's happening in the next few weeks. And I'm like, I think I can pencil it in.
I think you could definitely get it done way quicker than I did as well, because I was trying to do everything, and while I don't regret that, I could totally see myself having a bit more streamlined of an experience where I wasn't, getting bits and tastes from a lot of different experiences, as opposed to like, what if I just focus on one or two NPCs and really, really tried to make the most out of that? But then, even as I'm saying this, there's also the Andy in the back of my mind going, yeah, but all the other stuff you experience was so like fulfilling as well. I do think that there are so many great moments of excitement and stress that you can experience in this game, just with bringing your homies along, and it's like, oh, we've really, really fucked up this side quest. Are we going to be able to recover this? There's a lot of money on the line. I'm kind of poor. I could really, really like it. You get so immersed. You're like, man, that 300 cryo would go a long way right now, because I need to buy fuel and I need to buy food and supplies. This game rocks, man.
Yeah, I mean, hearing you talk about it reminds me of games I love, like Disco Elysium and Nier Automata,
Yes.
and like the Nier franchise, right? Like, take some of those RPG mechanics of Disco, and like, especially like a lot of the text-based stuff. I know Disco, it took for the director's cut for me to get into it because they had the voice acting, and so like they read all that shit out loud to me in really cool voices. But even still, that's another.
In a really cool.
They were super cool.
The voices are really cool. If you play Disco Elysium, you know what I'm talking about. The voices are so fucking cool, especially the narrator.
Honestly, that was I had the same thing. That's one I held off for Disco's director cut as well. But jumping into this one, I was like reading. Like, I like reading fine, don't get me wrong, but it's like, is it going to maintain my interest? And I was shocked how in my hour and a half, I've like, oh, there's voices to these characters as they go.
Yeah, and thematically, just everything you're saying just reminds me of Nier, right? Of like, what does it mean to be human, right? Like the idea of even like machine bodies versus actual bodies, and like how much does the body matter? And so like, like, I don't know, that type of shit gets me, and so I'm excited to pick this up.
I was just taking like some photos of my Steam Deck, just like moments of brilliance with just small little entries of text, right?
Screenshot.
And,
you can just hit the screenshot button.
on the Steam Deck, I don't know how to do that.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like the
It's-
Steam button and then click
Yeah.
on like one of the right bumpers. I
okay.
think.
I think it's R1.
R1.
But I just like wanted to read this. I'm not going to include characters' names for spoiler purposes, but I have this
Yep.
one thing. It's like,
Steam button R1.
you turn their coin over and over in your fingers. You turn their coin over and over in your fingers as you stand in flicker row, crowds pushing past on their way to whatever future awaits them. Your fingers glide over the worn metal as you imagine the characters have in moments of anticipation. Perhaps others, before the coin came to become theirs, have repeated the same ritual, the same nervous routine, but their fingers were human, born, not made. This intrusive thought makes you slip the coin into a pocket quickly, as if it had delivered a shock. It is worn and worthless. It is bent and broken, and it is beautiful in all of those things. And as you press your thumb against it, your crooked, callous thumb again and again, you realize you are the coin. You are bent. You are broken. It's like,
Damn.
fuck, man, this shit's just
Damn.
so good, dude.
You know what's hilarious is like I started playing out my day of like, oh, what if I got home and immediately streamed Citizen Sleeper 2? And I was like, oh wait, no, this is pre-recorded. The embargo was not for 2 days.
What if I went home and broke embargo?
I will say that, like,
man, Andy gave it a 9 right over in the Gamescast right before this because
Start talking
it's a
about it.
contender.
definitely not a game that I could stream just because of the amount of reading.
The rating, yeah, you have to read all that shit out loud.
Even though I
probably.
have so much fun, like doing the voice acting stuff, it's like, it's also one of those that I needed to kind of just experience this and not be distracted. Because when I play, if I'm streaming a game, you're already throwing in a distraction factor.
Yeah.
Where it's easy for me to miss plot points and miss stuff where I'm laughing at a joke in chat, or I'm thinking of how am I going to entertain the chat in this moment?
Yeah.
What funny line can I come up here with here? And when I was just there in the Steam Deck at night, it was just like, I was just in that fucking
See,
world.
the
man.
reason why I want to stream it first is just for like the first stream of if I can have a reason for 2 hours to sit down and just have to play this and not be distracted. I want it to grab me in those first 2 hours. That way I can like go off stream and then just play the rest by myself. Because I'm like you, where when I read, I will read a paragraph and not internalize anything and then have to read it over again. And so the idea of like having to sit there for a couple hours and like read it out loud and understand and like actually get a specific
The meat of it.
the meat of it,
Yeah.
and then like already be invested. Because once I'm invested, then we're good, right? Like that's what happened with me with Live Alive, where I played like the first chapter of Live Alive and was like, oh man, I'm playing the rest of this. Like I didn't think I was gonna be as into this game, and now I'm into it. So now I'm just gonna cruise through this thing.
Oh, and the music fucking kicks ass too. Like there's a lot of songs available on Spotify, but just like part one, Amos Roddy, I believe, is the name of the musician, and it kicks ass just like the first one did. There's a lot of great bops. There's a lot of repeated bops as well, but even the final song that plays during the, I was telling Greg and Bless during the ad break, like reading the final kind of paragraphs of as the game is ending and the music is playing, I am just like an emotional wreck. I am like tears in my eyes, like, man, this is just and the thing about the developer, they mentioned that they are kind of done with Citizen Sleeper as a universe and they want to work on they're making a tabletop game already, but they mentioned, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm just like pleading to any of my favorite developers, like hire them to write for. Obviously, they have their own game development studio. They're probably going to just make another game of this style.
Sure.
But it's like, man, I just wish that their talents were, you know what? Let's emulate your brain. put it in a robot body.
What does it mean to be human? Teach an AI to write just like this developer
And also
did.
to the Citizen Sleeper devs, if you are selling the film rights to your IP,
We're interested in talking.
Me and Greg are interested in having a little chat.
How can we capitalize on this? Not taking any of the lessons.
The whole plan, of course, is that we will do one of those. We have to publish a movie every 4 years.
Yep.
And we will enter that agreement with
retain
you.
the rights forever.
We'll just
Of
Resident
course.
Evil this thing and have a great
Have you
one.
seen the Steam page, by the way? Like, we're on the Steam page.
What?
Yeah, we have a quote on the Citizen Sleeper 2 Steam page. And this quote, it's living up to the hype. It's a contender.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And it turned out it did. It lived up to the
It
hype.
sure did.
A 9 out of 10 from the one, the only, Andy Cortez. That, of course, is an amazing on our scale. Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector is out tomorrow, January 31st. Pick it up or go play Citizen Sleeper 1 to see if it's your cup of tea. Since it's on Game Pass, it's on PlayStation Extra or PlayStation Plus Extra. You can get that too.
But if you don't got that Game Pass, the demo is still up on Steam as well.
Fantastic.
I think the demo is probably up everywhere.
Yeah, but we already talked about this on the other show. We don't know how to use demos on PlayStation 5. You know what I mean?
Gotta hit the 3
What do you
dots.
download? I
Where
got
is
dots.
it?
I don't know what's happening over
Who
here.
knows?
Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, are you planning to pick up Citizen Sleeper 2, or is this a time loop and you've already played it and stuff? Let us know in the comments below what you think and what drew you to it or what's keeping you away from it. And then, of course, go ahead and pick up a Kind of Funny membership. Remember, we're an 11-person small business that does live talk shows about video games all day, every day, and we couldn't do without you. So head over to patreon.com/kindoffunny, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, Apple and Spotify. Pick up a podcast, and if you got no bucks, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.